At home. There's things for us to do that we can do at home. We'll be looking at some of those things. But it's not a problem with seed. It's not a problem with soil. It could be a problem of not having sowers who are willing to go out and participate in sowing the seed. But here's where it all comes back to, and this is something that's very, very important. And as you look at some of the studies that's been done in churches that are growing, even today, there are churches in our brotherhood that are going quite well. They're baptizing people. They're adding to their numbers, and it's not coming from swelling. What do we mean by swelling? Can we expect our growth to come from church swelling? Yes. You get people going from one congregation to another, and that became a means of growth for some congregations. And the thought was, if we hire a dynamic preacher that everybody likes, then we're going to draw all the brethren from all over these different congregations, and they're going to come in and fill our building, and we're growing. Folks, if we depend upon that for growth, we got our directions wrong. And I truly believe that. I'm going to do the best job I can preaching, don't get me wrong. But that's not where our growth needs to come from. And the only way that, one of the things, if a congregation has gone off into false doctrine, then I pray for people to come to us. But I don't see that as the pathway to growth, is it? So what is our pathway? What will help a congregation like this that has empty pews or older people? Are they done? Is it inevitable that that church building will shut the doors and they'll lock it up and walk away forever? Which has occurred. No, we don't have to see that as reality. What does it take? Prayer. Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute.
You mentioned new converts being able to teach. We saw when we were in Peru on our mission trips that sometimes new converts were the best at bringing other people in. They had that excitement, that zeal for Christ. And congregations like the one in the picture seem to have become complacent. They don't have that excitement and zeal anymore to know that Jesus is their Savior and that they've committed their lives through baptism to Him. And so we need to try to spark that zeal in each one of us again.
Very good. Well said, Phyllis, because that is so true. And if the new converts, they may not be equipped to personally teach or lead that study necessarily, but we got folks, and in most places, even in Peru, they would get you a contact that was a prospect, and what would somebody do? Study the Bible with them. And so because of their zeal, they were out there, because of their faith in Jesus and the newfound love that they've got, they were out there doing what? Yeah. Y'all remember Andrew, right? What did Andrew do? There you go. So, what does it take to sow seed? When that sower goes out to sow, he's doing so in faith, isn't he? What's the faith that he has? Faith that God will give the increase. And faith in the ground, right? They know when they sow that seed that there is good ground, and they're going to work, just like the Amish have been doing. If you drive like we do down a highway, you get to see the Amish at work a lot. And they're cultivating the soil. They were doing that while it was still frozen. And the other day, it was funny watching them out there covering up everything that they've got growing, because they got stuff growing, and they were working frantically. But they're expecting what? A harvest. They're expecting a harvest because they look for the good ground. So we need faith in the seed, the good ground, and who else? God. Because what is it that can happen when we sow that seed in the good ground with the faith in God? It's going to grow. It's going to spring up, yield a crop 100-fold. And what's Matthew say? It's 30, let's see, I'll get it right here. Some 60, or some 30, some 100. Now, what is Luke telling us when we read the words? When he had said these things, speaking of Christ, he cried, "He who has an ear, or who has ears to hear, let him hear." What does Jesus want us to hear? Take it to heart, right? Simple, but take it to heart. Because the ones on the good ground are those having heard the word with noble and good heart, do what? They keep it, bear fruit with patience. Brother Clayton. A little bit. Yes. There's sometimes the congregations that they don't follow Jesus' word there, go teach, baptize, and then teach the Lord. You ain't going to be baptized, yeah. And then there's no growth. And that's part of the problem with the soils. There's things that we can do to help make that better situation. But the reality still ends up being what? Us, our faith, our trust in God, and our willingness to do what He wants us to do. And we all can play a role. And one of the things as we look at this congregation, and Gina mentioned this, prayer. Could it be that this congregation is not praying? Because who gives the increase? And someone mentioned last Wednesday, when we sow the seed, then you have to have folks that come back and do what? Water, yeah, the harvest, but before that you have those who water. And as you notice in the pictures, you see soil that is cultivated. Can every Christian play a role in cultivation and prep of the soil? Especially when relating to contacts. I think so. So what about prayer? And what about prayer for laborers? Because could this congregation, let's say it's older, they're not in health to do a lot of physical outdoors, going outdoors to knock doors, but does that mean they can't produce? Can't grow? Can't sow seed? What could they do? If they're sitting there and they're thinking about, okay, what can we do to fill this building up? What could they do? And how many of you remember what we're going to be doing in October? About the 15th. Campaign. We got some people coming in, Lord willing, that are going to go with us, and they're going to go out, and they are going to go with those of us that are capable and volunteer, and they're going to do door knocking. What's the purpose? To make contacts, to sow the seed, to have Bible studies because of the prospects. But ultimately, our trust lies where? In our heart with God. And there are ways we can find for even congregations that are seemingly dying to turn that around. Carrie.
Sometimes we forget that our workers here all of their lives. Some people retire from their jobs, so they think they can retire from the church too. So we have to realize there's something we can do no matter what age group we're in, whether we're semi-retired or all the way retired. We can still talk on the phone. We can still invite our neighbors or bills, and we can send cards and stuff and encourage people that just because you can't retire until you're went home to be with heaven.
Yeah. There's always something anybody can do in the role as a Christian to help turn those contacts. And of course, we talk about going, we think about just focusing on the teaching, which is necessary, of course, to make disciples and then baptizing folks and teaching some more. But we need, as we go, to think about this, contacts to the prospects. And it truly does start with contacts. That's talking about you have to have some contact with people. And that is important. And then when you make that contact with a person, then that person can become a prospect. And the difference between a prospect and a contact is what? Okay, so Janice says a prospect is someone that's more interested in learning. Very good. How many of you delivered these bags to the homes? Great. You made a contact, didn't you? How many of you were able to spend time talking with them? That gives you opportunity to turn potentially that contact into a possible prospect. But if you didn't talk to them, you made the contact. And then inside that bag, it's designed to turn that contact that was made by you into prospects. What will they do when they open those bags, Haley? And Ellen, tell us a little bit about what's inside. Let's get you. You don't mind talking on the mic so we can hear you here.
There's one of the, I think it's Living Word DVDs. Handle. Marshfield, like a directory.
Directory for the Marshfield.
Catalog thing.
And
a pretty Bible bookmarker.
Mm-hmm.
I think what else is in
and
it?
there's little cards.
Yeah, with the hand sanitizer, and there's a little card with the what do you call that?
Well, it's just a prospect card because it will tell them where to go online to be taught the Bible.
Right.
Bible's pointed lessons on what to do to be saved, and we'll be exploring that more. Haley?
Well, there's information about the church here.
Yes. Key. There's information there about the church here. Our meeting times, who we are. There's also tracts in there. We prepared a couple tracts for those baskets. So then again, both of those tracts point to here. And so it's a way for us to take contacts and then turn them into prospects that will ultimately become Bible studies and baptisms. So that's what our goal is, to take these contacts and make prospects. But here's the question. How do we get contacts? How about use mouthwash? What'd you say, Thad? Talk to people. Make connections. Where do contacts live? It could be next door to us, across the street, other places.
John 4:35 says, "Do not say there are still 4 months, then comes the harvest. Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look at the fields, for they're already white for harvest."
Already white. They're out there. There's souls to be reaped. And so how much seed has this congregation sown here in Marshville over the years?
Not enough.
Not enough, but it has sown seed, right? And how do we know that seed isn't ready to be harvested? For a long time, the church here sent out the house to house, heart to heart. That went into homes. And it's amazing. You go talk to people, you find out, I know somebody attends that church, or they invited me, or I once attended there. You see, seed has been planted. That. Bus ministry reached a lot of people, didn't you? What was good about that was you made the contacts. They became prospects because they were riding the buses and getting teaching on that. But as Haley pointed out, we just got to look at the field. They're out there. And some of them are ready to be harvested a lot quicker than others. But this is all a part of what we can call, the reaching out part. Now, question, is this the only way or just one way? How many of you like knocking cold doors? How many of you have done it? We've done it a lot. I have myself, Kathy and I, knocking on doors. It works, but it's a difficult undertaking because people have dogs, and some or another, I've got on my back written the word buffet for dogs. I have been bit more than my fair share. And Kathy can tell you about the last one, and I think I've mentioned it we were out visiting at Highland, or actually it was Cherokee Village, for the Ward Street congregation where I was preaching. And just before we came up here, bit right here on decided I wasn't looking. And he drew blood. Of course, my first thought as I ran away from him was rabies, rabies. And then the guy says, well, he's part wolf. You have to expect that. Thanks a lot. But anyway, I'm still here, thankfully. What about this right here? You recognize what this is? What is it, Daddy? And I want to thank her for she's been really good about, and along with several of the others, but watching after these visitors cards. And they're important. So if you're back in the back, I want to encourage you, don't miss opportunity. Because when people come here, that's a good thing, isn't it? Because that's a positive contact. Because they're coming into our building. And if we don't get this, we don't know who they are sometimes. If we do get it, guess what? You don't have to guess, you know. What happens if we get a visitor card? Right. Well, because of my confidence in the value of these go on my radars. If I get the card, they're on my radar. Kathy and I, thankfully, have been able to, for the most part, we failed some, but for the most part, we've been able to visit people till COVID, and now we're back to doing it. If we get a visitor's card, we put them on our radar, and we try to visit that week. But just in case we don't, or someone else takes the visit, first things that we do on Tuesday, I traditionally try to take Mondays off. Tuesday, I start putting letters together on behalf of the congregation, so these people get a letter. Then also we'll share these visitors cards so others can make contact with these people and visit. It makes a lot of difference, doesn't it? Showing that we care. And I want to say I appreciate all of you who have been making those visits and take those visits, because those are contacts. And because you've already had the contact with them in the congregation, it makes it opportunistic to turn them into prospects because they've already been here. And it's much better. Probably this is one of our best contacts to go to prospects. But this is something that we can do on purpose. I've got a sheet. Randy, could you and Dan pass these out? And Dan, we got another Dan. We'll make sure everybody gets one of these. It's called Tilling the Soil by Creating Contacts. This is by Brother Rob Whitaker. I'd like to say it's original with me, but it's not. If you've attended, how many of you have attended Rob Whitaker's workshops? There was one recently in Sparta. There was one here, I understand, years ago. Does anybody remember it? When there was a soul evangelism workshop? But anyway, that doesn't matter. But if we're going to think about contacts, we must think of purpose. And so we all can make a list of folks that can be contacts. And so what I'm going to ask you to do this next week and bring this back with you, the first thing is list 10 non-Christians that you know down here. Just 10 non-Christians that you know. And you might think, well, I've already talked to them. Well, then put somebody else's name down. And you might think, well, I don't know 10. Put 4. What do you know? Who you know? Who are contacts that are not Christians? Now, there's a little statement here I will clarify. While the preacher is normally surrounded by Christians, church members are surrounded by the lost. Well, I found that to be frustrating. So I try to involve myself, this is personal, I try to involve myself with people outside of the church. How do I do that? Well, some of y'all volunteer for Meals on Wheels. I don't do that. But I do volunteer with Kathy. We volunteer to go play music in nursing homes and with other people because I enjoy it. But I take what I enjoy and make contacts. And so the more the preacher can get out and make those kind of good contacts, the better it will be because we can reach out to other people. And also, I hope it causes folks to see me as a real person. But preachers are somewhat handicapped, but not exempt, of course. So when we think about the contacts, we create them from the people we know. He suggests also creating a compassion card list, and you can read through that. And then one of the things that has been successful and will continue to be is using benevolence to help those we know who are in need. Oftentimes we wait for people to come to us, right? But we can make that effective for us by looking for people even outside the congregation who might need something. We've still got plenty of food back here, and I see somebody I think might be in need. I've talked to her, can talk to her, or just go over and talk to them. Stick a little bag in your hand and say, "Hey, just thought you might could use this." Because what are you doing by doing that? Making a contact. Making a contact to become prospects. So we look for people we know who are in need. Create situations that encourage members to bring non-Christians to meet Christians. You'll notice in our past, that's what we've done until COVID. What was Friends and Family Day all about? That's what we were doing. We were encouraging everybody to make contact with folks. And then, number 5, keep our doors open as much as possible. What do I mean by that? Well, the building can become evangelistic or a tool for evangelism. How so? Kathy? Yeah, and we've got families coming now because of that. So the building is a tool. We can invite folks to worship our normal times, but how can we use it outside the times? Well, we've got a ladies' Bible class. We also can utilize it for reaching out to children through VBSs. One of the things that we've been discussing in the business meeting, I know our time's up, but I'm going to continue. And also, this is on the elders' plate, is utilizing our facilities in order to teach children the Bible outside of what we call the normal. We are blessed with a great number of school teachers who can teach English, and parents are looking for enhancement to their children's education. And one of the things that's we're seeing our congregations throughout our brotherhood using is getting children to come in to be taught English. And what book do they use to teach English out of? The Bible. And that has been very, very successful, and it's something potentially we can see for the future. But just think about, using our tools that are right here. Appreciate your attention. Look forward to you preparing a contact list. Anybody not get this? Okay, good. Next week we'll continue. Janet asked or said that she knows what's to study. Next week we're going to be, Lord willing, looking at conversions in the book of Acts. But we want to see how the contacts became the prospects, to the Bible studies, to the baptisms. And we'll be looking at several of the conversions in Acts 8, Acts 16. And Lydia is in Acts 8 too. 16? Yeah, Lydia's in 16. Appreciate your attention. Here. Luther, are you up there? Would you pause the live stream for the during?